Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a wrap up. If you watched my February wrap up, you would have seen me mention that there was like an impromptu, informal readathon happening this week and I was going to try to participate. And participate I did. I finished a decent amount over the past week, which I was really surprised about, partially because the books were all really short. But my goal for the readathon was basically to read more than I probably would have otherwise, which I definitely did. I finished like 3.5 books. So the first book I finished was Linden Hills by Gloria Naylor. I was in the middle of this when the readathon started, so I didn't read this whole thing this week, but this was fantastic. I was really surprised by how much I liked this. In this story, you are following basically this neighborhood called Linden Hills. It's an affluent Black neighborhood. You get to find out how this neighborhood came to be and how basically families are handpicked almost to live in this neighborhood. It's sort of this status symbol to get picked to live in Linden Hills, but you get glimpses into all of these different families' lives and you see how a lot of them are struggling a lot more than they're willing to show, and they all have sort of different problems that they're dealing with. A lot of people mentioned to me when I talked about this book previously that this book is sort of based on Dante's Inferno, and you can definitely see that. You're mainly following these two characters as they do work in this neighborhood, and they're basically like going down the hill, so you're going through like the layers of hell, and all of the different families that you meet along the way sort of reflect and play on the different sins that Dante's Inferno touches upon, like lust and greed and all of those different things. So it was really well done, but I feel like even if you don't know anything about Dante's Inferno, I've never read it, I just have like that casual knowledge of it. It's still just a fantastic story that talks about this idea of like keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up appearances and how destructive that can be and all of the different vices that these different people deal with. And yeah, it was just so well done. I love this so much. Gloria Naylor is just such a fantastic writer, and I cannot wait to read more from her. Highly recommended. I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished was Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. I loved this book as well. I also gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to talk about it too much here because I'm going to do a full review on this book because it deserves a full review. So that will be coming this Friday, so you won't have to wait too long to hear me talk about this book. But I loved it so much. I love the way Mohsin Hamid writes. He really plays with a reader's sort of like expectations of what a book and story should be. Like all of his novels are written differently, so you never really know what you're going to get from him. This is probably his most like straightforward novel so far, but he still plays with structure and storytelling styles and things like that. I have so much to talk about with this book. I'm not going to do it justice here. You're mainly following these two characters named Nadia and Saeed who live in this unnamed country that's fallen into disarray and into a war zone. And so it's about them surviving in that country and then deciding to leave the country, and about them trying to exit west, so to speak. It's just so well done. It's such a great commentary on life and choices and home and opportunities and experiences. And there's so much happening in the story, and it's like not even 300 pages. It's so well done. Also gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and again, a review will be coming this Friday. The next book I finished was The Refugees by Viet Thanh Nguyen. This is a collection of short stories. I read The Sympathizer last year and really enjoyed it, so I was really looking forward to this collection of short stories, but I have to admit I was kind of disappointed by this. Adam from Memento Mori talked about this collection recently in his February wrap-up, and I'm going to link to that because he does a really great job of talking about it, and I almost 100% agree with his opinions on it. This is a collection of short stories that's almost completely forgettable. There are very few stories in here that I feel like are going to stick with me. If I would say there's maybe like 2 in this entire collection that I found to be intriguing enough. It felt like all the stories sort of blended into each other. There's nothing really distinct about any of them. I really like The Sympathizer, but I think that this author's writing style is just not suited for short stories. He is very good at like the slow burn. He likes to sort of like keep his stories at a simmer, and then eventually you realize that it's boiling, but it's sort of sneaks up on you a little bit. And I think in short stories, he doesn't have that time to develop that heat. So they all just kind of just bubble along a little bit, but nothing really happens because the story is over before anything can really happen. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by this. Like, this short story collection wasn't offensive. Like, I wasn't upset that I spent time reading it, but I just know it's going to be something that I forget about in like a couple of months. which is just disappointing. And then the final book that I finished, which I literally just finished minutes ago before recording this video, is The Scapegoat by Sophia Nicolaou. I probably mispronounced that, and it was translated from the Greek by Karen Emmerich. This book was really surprising. It was not at all what I thought it was going to be. So in the 1940s, there was a civil war happening in Greece, and there was an American journalist who was killed named George Polk. This is a real life event that happened. There was no real truth found to who killed this man, and someone was actually framed for the murder. So this is a novelization based on that story. And so you're following two timelines. There is a timeline that takes place in the 1940s where you are following different people who were connected to either the journalist who was killed or the person who was framed for the murder, or just like lawyers involved in the case, things like that. And then the second storyline takes place in 2010, 2011, where you are following this boy named Minas, who is supposed to be taking his exams to enter university, but he doesn't want to because Greece is going through this financial collapse, and he doesn't see value in going to university if there's not going to be a job for him after he's done. So he's fighting with his parents about that, and then he talks to one of his teachers who recommends that instead of doing his exams, he does sort of like a research paper on this crime that happened in Greece. So you're following these two different timelines, and I thought it was going to be sort of like a mystery novel, but it's really about finding out about these two time periods in Greece and seeing the parallels between what happened in the 1940s and what was happening in like the 1910s, like modern day basically in Greece, and seeing the corruption in the government and the lack of responsibility taken by those in power. It was really well done. I will say it took me a little while to get into the story just because I wasn't expecting that, and the jumping back and forth between the two time periods, I felt myself slightly disconnected from the past time period just because you go through different people. But in the end, I really enjoyed it. And there's also an author's note at the end that gives, or a translator's note at the end that gives a lot of context to the story, which I really appreciated. I also think this was like a fantastic translation. I think that anytime you're reading a translation, you can sort of tell you're reading a translation because the English isn't quite as smooth as a native speaker, but I think that the way this translation was done, if you hadn't told me this was translated, I wouldn't have guessed it at all. It's very well done translation. I was so surprised by that. So if you're someone who's looking for more books in translation, but you find yourself slightly intimidated by books in translation, I highly recommend this one. This book is extremely readable, and I think that this would be actually a great place to start if you are looking for books in translation. So yeah, that's everything that I have for you guys today. If you've read any of these books, definitely let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of them. Like I said, a review of Exit West is coming on Friday. Or if you participated in the readathon, definitely let me know how you did this week. As usual, it was an impromptu, informal readathon. So as long as you did some reading, I feel like it should be considered a success. And thanks to Sam from TheBookHoarder for starting this off, because I definitely wouldn't have read all those books this week if she hadn't done that. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.